Chrissy, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Now, obviously, we're going to talk a lot about your journey as a powerlifting athlete, and then training through pregnancy, and then returning to powerlifting probably next year.
Mm-hmm.
But first, let's zoom back to where it all started for you. Do you remember your first memory of the physical culture space?
So, as you know, I was a gymnast for a very long time.
Yeah, we should say this isn't me actually finding out stuff about you. I already know all this stuff, but this is just for the listeners.
This is for the listeners. So I was a gymnast from age 6 till 16, and I think when you're really little, you probably don't think about your body as much. You kind of just do the things, do the sports, when you're that small. But probably around age, I would say I was probably 9 or 10. We had this coach at gymnastics, and she would get us to do these little circuit warm-up sessions, and we'd often come to gymnastics training in our crop tops and shorts and stuff like that. And she used to get the chalk block and draw little abs on us. And it was funny because when someone draws abs on you, it's usually when you don't have abs, but a lot of us actually had abs. So she was just kind of outlining our abs. And I remember looking down and seeing a six pack and being like, that's actually there. Those are muscles, and there are pictures of me with little cap delts and stuff like that when I was 9, which is just crazy. So now, funnily enough, it was probably actually my own body that I noticed more than anything else.
So now everyone knows why I married you, for the elite genetics.
The genetics. Come on, Summer.
Yeah, come on, Summer. So gymnastics and weightlifting kind of have this aura around them with regards to how strict the coaching was. Did you experience that with your coaching as a kid? Were your coaches just completely intense?
100%. We had, by the time I was in sort of elite gymnastics, which was probably by the time I was 10 or 11, the two coaches that I had were a married couple. They were Chinese, and one of them had actually gone to the Olympics and represented China at the Olympics for gymnastics. That was the husband, actually. And they were intense, super intense, as in if you miss a training session, that was not on kind of thing. And we were kids at the time, but it was important to us as well. And I think when you go into it and that's your norm, that's kind of just what you expect. So that was our normal.
So why did you stop doing gymnastics in your teen years? Did you feel like it was taking away from the rest of your life and you kind of just wanted to be a teenager?
That's exactly why.
Yeah.
Partly focusing a bit more on school, going into when I stopped, I was about to go into my HSE year, and I figured, I was doing 4 training sessions a week, which ranged from 3 to 4 hours. That was just for gymnastics, and I played netball as well. So it was a timing thing, and it was also just by that point, I was a teenager, I was going to parties, drinking, all of that sort of stuff. So it just wasn't as much of a priority anymore.
Did anyone that you trained with make it to the Olympics or anything like that?
One girl got pretty close, but no one that I knew super closely.
Did you all have the dream of Olympics in the early years, and did that die down at some point where you realize, hey, we're not actually going to make it? Because for me, when I played basketball when I was a kid, I was I'm going to the NBA. I'm going to the NBA. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I'm going to the NBA. And then I got to 15 and I'm maybe I can go to the NBL. And then by the time I was 18, I'm yeah, I'm not doing anything.
It's actually so funny that you say that, because that is exactly what happened. I was when I was really young doing gymnastics, I was I could go to the Olympics. That's my trajectory. That did not happen. I think when you start and you see that initial progression, this is something that definitely happens in powerlifting as well. You start training more specifically and you see progression really quickly, and you get, at gymnastics, there's lots of skills to learn. You build strength, you build muscle, you build those skills, and you're oh, I'm doing so well. This is a possibility for me. And then it just think of how many Australians actually go to the Olympics for gymnastics. Hardly any.
Yeah, you realize very quickly, you may be really good at a school level, and then you go to the next level and you realize everyone there's really good at their school level. And then, only a handful of people at that next level get selected for the next level.
Yep.
And then there's another 5 levels. And like, for me, when I was playing basketball, it's like I was, probably the best kid at my school. And then you go to the school tournament and there's like 3 or 4 kids on your level and they're like nothing compared to the kids at the next level. And then there's like another 5 levels. And it's just like you very quickly go from thinking like, hey, I'm actually really capable to like, I'm nothing. It's like tiniest fish in an enormous pond.
Definitely.
Whereas like at the school level, you're like the biggest fish in the smallest pond.
I think even for us, like our team won a national comp when I was 14. So we were actually up there in the country, like literally in Australia for our age, for our level, all of that. But getting to the next stage in gymnastics is huge. Like you could be the best in Australia and still be absolutely nothing compared to some of the gymnasts from America, China, heaps of other countries.
Yeah, like my under-16s team at Norths, we won the national championship and 8 of the kids I played with got college scholarships.
Oh, wow, that's pretty good.
And only one of them actually played professionally.
Yeah.
And he still plays professionally. And he was like not even the best at that age
in like
either.
what league?
He plays in the NBL.
Oh, okay. All right, that's pretty good.
Yeah, pretty good. But he's like 6'10", so the rest of us.
He's got a little advantage there.
Well, I was the only kid on the team who wasn't 6 foot in under 16s. I was like 5'7". So quit gymnastics around 16. When did you start enjoying strength training and how did that process begin?
There was a big gap of whole lot of nothing.
A lot of drinking.
A lot of drinking. I played netball for a little bit longer, and then once I left school, I really didn't do that much physical activity. I was sort of active in my like day-to-day life, like I'd walk and things like that, do a bit of cardio here and there, but I didn't start strength training until I was 24. So
really?
Yeah, big gap. And like I went on a big overseas trip when I was 23, and that was a big factor in coming back to going to the gym, because 2 things: came back and also decided that I wanted to change my career, and that's when I started getting into PT. But I just remember looking at like my body composition on that trip and being like, this is not ideal. Like I was real skinny, like a borderline skinny fat, but like real skinny. And I was like, this is not what I want to be. Like coming from that little 9-year-old with the cap delts to having virtually no muscle, and it just wasn't.
Little doughy.
Bit doughy around the tummy. So when I came back, I was like, right, I'm going to the gym. And I signed up to an Anytime Fitness, and I just started going, and I started working with a coach soon after that. And that's when things really started to progress for me.
Did you have any like gym inspirations at that time? Like anyone on Instagram and stuff like that? That's probably before Instagram.
No, it wasn't. I think Instagram was up and running around then, but
I was just calling you old.
Not that early on, but as I started to get into training, but there was probably only one person, and I feel like it's super obvious who it is. Hattie Boydell.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. That probably would have been my guess.
Yeah, she's just incredible. And I actually ended up meeting her soon after I found her, like, physique and just approach to strength training to be really inspiring. And she was just so lovely as a person. So that kind of made it.
She still is.
She still is. Super like bubbly, happy to chat, like that sort of person. So it was kind of nice because she's really petite as well. So I think when you look at people who are inspiring to yourself, you don't look at someone who's completely different to you. You look at someone who's sort of similar to you, and you're like, maybe one day I could achieve that. Clearly that has not happened. But
so that's where I went wrong in picking Ronnie Coleman.
Yes. I think there's too many differences there.
So what made you want to transition from sort of doing like body composition stuff to trying powerlifting?
I think that was you.
That's it?
Yeah. When we met in the gym.
Yeah.
So Alex and I met in the gym, not surprising, when I must have been about 2016. and I was doing like a bit of squat, bench, deadlift in my training, but nothing outrageous. And it was still mainly like bodybuilding focused. And you were like, oh, you should do a meet. And I was like, nah. And then like 3 months later, I was like, I'm bored. I should probably do that meet. And so it was really just getting bored with doing the same thing over and over again with bodybuilding.
Yeah, I remember you and I met, we were introduced by Rob Flett, and I just went to St. Leonard's Fitness first to train one night. I think this was in early 2016. And then, like you said, a couple months later, you messaged me and you're like, hey, can we train at the gym? And it was a Saturday. And I think you hit your first 60 kilo bench that day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long after then? I think that was around March. And then you did your first comp in, I want to say,
It's like March the next year.
the following year. And
Yeah.
you did it.
I started training with you in November that year.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Cool. Hang on.
So-
I've forgotten my next question.
Okay.
So you went from, like body composition stuff, trying out powerlifting, and then a couple of years later, you came second at nationals twice, actually. Never quite won, but you came
Not
second.
first, you're last.
But that's better than I ever did. So I know I always say that I'm a better powerlifter than you, which I probably am.
Technically
But
you are.
you placed higher at nationals than I did, so that's a win. What was your most memorable moment of your powerlifting sort of 4-year period?
So it's funny because the best moment or most memorable for me wasn't actually at a comp. It was at the mock comp that we set up at Paragon, which was just before COVID hit, which is why the comp was cancelled, and we decided to run sort of a mock meet. We still had like the refs, like all of that. So it was like a proper meet set up just without the actual side of it. And I squatted 140 that day. And that was something that I don't think I ever saw myself doing. Like I didn't have it in my mind that I was ever going to squat that much. And I think that's such a nice way to finish a day, thinking I actually exceeded my expectations by like 5 to 7 kilos there, rather than going in thinking I'm going to squat 140 and either getting it or not getting that much. So that was like, I felt euphoric after that. That was mad. Like I just had so much fun that day.
I remember that because it was actually a 4th attempt, and had the meet not been cancelled. So Chrissy and I signed up for this comp. I think it was 28th of February, 2020.
No, it was March because that was just before. It was like the 21st of March or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right.
I am right.
Yeah, so it was March. We were prepping for this comp, and we got word on, it was a Saturday. We got word on like Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday areas. The gyms are going to be closing. Comps aren't going to be running. And then we heard sort of Wednesday, Thursday that Melbourne had comps on that same weekend and they were cancelling. JP and Billy were cancelling their comp, and we were like, fuck. All right, maybe we're not going to be able to do this comp. So the comp was actually cancelled, and then people who were training at Paragon, like the gym was still open. So all the members from Paragon who were planning on doing this comp decided like, hey, let's just do this anyway. And, had the comp not been cancelled, you wouldn't have squatted 140 that day because you would have just done 135 on your third attempt. You would have been like, oh, great, had a little bit more, but not actually had the chance to do the 140. So it's kind of like lucky in that respect.
Definitely. I don't care that didn't go on like the powerlifting records. I actually ended up squatting 140 later that year, and it was nowhere near as good, and I like nearly got pinned under it, and it was a terrifying experience.
Well, I'm a little upset that those records aren't on open powerlifting because I want all my meets on there,
Yeah, I know, but it was
and that would have been my first 9 for 9.
Oh, well.
And then I had to do it last year.
I think I technically didn't get my deadlift that day. Like I deadlifted 160, but it was
that wouldn't
real
have
dodge. No, it definitely did not count. So like there were sort of, different wins in that day. And I think everyone was just everyone was in just such a good mood that day. Like it was just such a fun day, and we all went out drinking after, and it was just a lot of fun. So yeah, that's definitely a highlight for me.
That night, the next morning we found out that lockdown was happening.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the saddest days of all time.
Yeah. Big highs to big lows.
One of the best days of all time to one of the worst days of all time, back to back. So you are planning on making a comeback.
That's the plan.
We'll talk about that after we talk about what you're coming back from. So I've had a little bit of a break.
Yep.
What have you been doing? Why haven't you been powerlifting the last couple of years?
Focusing on having babies. So funnily enough, you really shouldn't compete when you're pregnant. Not heavily pregnant anyway.
Have you ever seen anyone compete like with a proper?
Oh, not with the proper belly.
Okay.
No, people have competed in early pregnancy, which is fine. Like, you know, if you're not feeling nauseous or too tired in the early days, there's nothing wrong with doing a comp in the sort of like, I would probably say you'd want to do it before the 10-week mark, just because after that, using your belts and stuff like that isn't super ideal. But
And obviously that would depend on whether you're, actually feeling okay, because usually first trimester is when people tend to get sick.
A lot of people experience a lot of fatigue and sickness. Yeah. So, yeah, I think the initial plan was to actually do a comp a year after having Summer, but we decided to have another baby and I got pregnant at 11 months postpartum. So that didn't happen, but I wasn't like sad about it or anything. I'm more happy to focus on this sort of stage of my life. And my body changing in that way before I get, like, there's so many years to do the powerlifting thing.
Yeah.
There's
the
probably only
platform
so
will always
many,
be there.
Yeah. There's only so many years that you can have babies. So that's the focus.
So you went from a really high level gymnast to a really high level powerlifter, and then all of a sudden sort of that physical part of your life was not taken away, but like reduced because of, this life shift. How did you find that shift mentally?
For me, I think it didn't worry me too much, mainly because you and I wanted to have a baby so badly by the time we conceived Summer, like so badly. And I think that was just of such high importance to me that it was like so much more of a priority than training was at that point. And I'd also done my pre-postnatal course to become a pre-postnatal certified trainer. And a lot of what they talk about in the course is like what they call athlete brain, which is something that you kind of need to turn the dimmer down on when you are pregnant and align your expectations with what training is going to look like when you're pregnant, and knowing that you can't do the same things. So I think it was a combination of those two things. Like, this was a bigger priority for me, but also I knew that in order to like have the best pregnancy possible, I had to change my mindset around what training was going to look like. The other part of that is probably that I learned to train hard in a different way. So instead of squatting, benching, deadlifting heavy, which is what I was really used to, I just sat myself on machines and went hard. Like, a lot of people can still do that when they're pregnant. So I was like, I'm going to go to a 10 on the leg extension like at least once or twice a week and retain as much muscle as I can. And that way I'm still training hard. Like, I'm still getting that satisfaction from it, but I'm not putting my body at risk.
So what were some of the things that you had to change other than like the exercise selection throughout the pregnancy process? Obviously early on you have to change less. And as you go, like, what are some of the differences you have to make to your program? When you get very heavily pregnant. Like right now.
It's super individual, because now that I've trained so many pregnant clients, I've realized like how different the scale can be.
I mean, more so for you specifically.
For me specifically. When I was pregnant with Summer, I had really bad, she sat transverse for ages and I had really bad pelvic pain. Squatting was out from like 18 weeks or something. Like, even goblet squatting, like I just couldn't do it. It was so painful. So I guess that's probably an exercise selection thing. But early on, get rid of the belt straight away if you are using one. And for me, barbell work was it just didn't appeal as much because I couldn't barbell squat. Benching I still did a little bit of, but again, like, the comfort of getting in and out of the bench is like not great. Deadlifting also quite uncomfortable. I had a big belly and I've got short legs and big legs. So as soon as I bent down, it's like my tummy's on my legs. It's just uncomfortable. So it's just, I guess for me it was changing from doing more barbell and dumbbell work to doing more machine work where I could go to a higher intensity and still push myself and be retaining as much muscle as I could, but not giving myself any like pain or discomfort whilst I was doing that.
So we often hear about a lot of pregnancy training myths, and I want you to tell the people whether they're myths or whether they're actually true.
Okay. Hit me.
So first one is, if you aren't already training, then you can't start.
That's probably the biggest myth that you hear. And the problem is that people who are in the medical profession still advise that sometimes, which is concerning.
That's true in a lot of respects to fitness stuff with doctors and stuff like that. Like some of the advice around nutrition or around training is just terrible.
Yeah.
Anyway, keep going.
When I went and saw my OB for the first time and she like, you talk about what you do for a living. And I was like, I'm a strength coach and I'm a pre-postnatal trainer. She was like, you know what to do, you do that. And I was like, mad. This is someone I'm aligning with at the moment. But yeah, no, definitely a myth. Strength training is something that if you haven't been doing and you want to do, you can absolutely start in pregnancy. You're just going to be starting, it's like anyone when they start. They're going to be starting at the bottom of the barrel. You're going to be lifting pretty light. There's going to be some body weight stuff. But there's definitely no reason you can't start.
You probably progress faster at that point anyway because you haven't done anything before.
Absolutely.
You'd probably actually be able to make more progress during your pregnancy journey than you would if you'd already been lifting. Like, because most people go from, most people who lift go from being really strong and capable and doing a lot of work to by the end of it not being able to do as much. And
definitely.
Yeah.
You'd probably just see like a really linear progression from the start through to like training after postpartum as opposed to like the dips that you would see if you were already a trained athlete.
Yeah, yeah. So what about you can only lift X amount or you can only do what you were doing before?
Definitely myths. The X amount thing is another thing that you would hear from a doctor. But just like imagine telling someone who was like a beginner, say they'd like just started training and they were doing a bit of strength training and they went in and saw like the same doctor as like Tia Claire Toomey and they both got told like you can only lift 20 kilos or something. Like that's ridiculous.
And you see that on that kind of attitude all over social media because Tia was posting all of her training.
Yeah.
Huge belly, doing snatches, doing muscle ups, whatever. And then all the comments are like, you're ruining the baby.
Yeah.
I feel for that baby. Rip the baby, blah, 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 all this bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really bad how that's like the common thought.
It's so hard you can't possibly know what that person is feeling in their body. Like someone like Tia, for example, she would know her body better than 99% of other people because she's an athlete and she's been doing it for such a long time. She would know when something was feeling good and when something was feeling wrong.
Yeah, yeah. You've almost got a better understanding of what's going on because you've had so much of your life dedicated to trying to understand how you feel and stuff like that.
100%. I think with someone, if they were just starting to strength train in their pregnancy, you'd be a lot more cautious with the loads and stuff that you give them. Like you'd err on the side of caution rather than pushing them. Whereas with someone who is already, a trained athlete, you would be like, how does that feel to you? Because they know. They're going to know better than you would.
Yeah, yeah. What about you can't train your core?
Oh, no, you can definitely train your core. It's just not as fun. It's already not that fun.
No, training the core sucks.
It's not fun, is it?
But I've seen a lot of the stuff that you've done, and a lot of it's like controlling your core, controlling your pelvic floor, a lot of breathing stuff. Does it change the prescription for core training when you are pregnant?
Yeah, definitely.
So what's some of the stuff you can't do for your core, and then what's some of the stuff that you would advise people to do?
So the stuff that you generally are going to find quite difficult is anything where you're using like your rectus abdominis to crunch up. what you will experience when you do that is what's called coning or doming, and it's where like a little triangle comes out of your tummy. And basically that's because your abs are stretching to accommodate the baby, and the fascia that runs down the middle of your abs has to sort of separate. And if you put too much pressure on that, you will find that it sort of starts to pop out. And that's where you can be not damaging, but I guess just changing the structure of that fascia. And that's something that you want to avoid. So
why do you want to avoid that?
Because it's going to be harder for it to come back together after. You want what Julia from PB Physio, who is my physio, would call tone, good tone there. And that's going to help that come back together after you're pregnant. So after the baby comes
The
out.
abs do separate for most people or
They have
everyone?
to.
Everyone?
Yeah, everyone. It's
And then
unavoidable.
The amount of core training that you do kind of lends a clue to whether those are going to come back quicker? Or is that more of that's just chance?
That's just more an individual thing. It could. It also couldn't. So it's hard to say. That's going to be really individual, but keeping that good tone there is going to be important in that as well. So yeah, stuff that where you're crunching up is going to be difficult and you're probably going to need to avoid it, but stuff where you're focusing more on your TVA, so those like deeper abdominal muscles, and using those to think about bringing your abs together. And the cool thing about doing that sort of core stuff when you're pregnant is that you actually physically see such a big change in your belly when you're doing it. So like your belly will go from being like super big to like tiny. And if you're still sort of, if you're before like 25 weeks, you can probably get to the point where you're contracted enough to like not even look pregnant anymore, which is crazy.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. This one is kind of sad, but the myth is training during pregnancy can lead to miscarriage.
False. So they haven't found any evidence that training can cause a miscarriage. It's something that people have to make up their minds up on their own. They have to make that decision for themselves. And if someone came to me and they said, I'm worried about this, I would explain to them that there isn't any,
Evidence,
to suggest that is something that could happen. But by the same token, if they're not comfortable exercising because of that, maybe they've had previous miscarriages, maybe they've had trouble conceiving, and it's they don't want to do anything to change the outcome of the pregnancy, then that has to be their decision.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So you are 2 weeks away from giving birth.
I sure am.
Which means when this episode comes out, we will have a son.
We will have a baby.
Very cool. Then you're going to be undergoing the process of returning to powerlifting.
Mm-hmm.
What's the timeline from sort of giving birth to when you're going to start sort of prepping and when you're going to look at doing a comp?
So I'm giving myself a decent amount of time because I think that's the smart thing to do. I'll probably give myself about a year. I expect myself to be on the platform in about a year's time. It's definitely like a staged process. The first stage is literally doing your breath work and your core work and starting to get your core function back. After you give birth, I would say probably more so for people who have C-sections, but regardless, same. You feel like you have no core. You feel like your abs have just disappeared. So that's the first thing. Then it's kind of like return to actual exercise movements. So reconnecting with your muscles, remembering what it feels like to like hinge and bend and all of those things again in the gym. And then from there, getting back into some barbell work, probably start working with a coach again at that point, and probably starting to prep at like the 3-month out mark. Yeah.
So how long from when you're giving birth to when you expect to be under a bar again? Like what's that early process?
Oh, probably it's going to be anywhere from 8 to 20 weeks.
Okay.
Depending on the person. Some people have better recoveries than others. So you have to feel that within yourself and be checking in with your physio as well.
So how different is this journey going to be compared to your first journey to your first powerlifting comp?
My expectations are just so much lower this time. You know when you start powerlifting and you do like, say you squat, like say I squatted like a double at 110 or something. You do that and you're like, oh, I can squat 140. Like, you know what I mean? Whereas this time it will be like, if I squat 120 in training, I will squat 120 on the platform. I just have lower expectations. Like I'm going to have 2 kids. I might not even be sleeping through the night by the time I'm planning to compete. I'll probably still be breastfeeding. That's a big energy sucker. That's probably the biggest energy sucker ever. So there's lots of factors to consider, and I think it will be more going onto the platform to have a good time and to really just get back into the process of powerlifting as opposed to trying to, like get any PBs or anything like that.
I think that's a problem that a lot of people have just in general is setting the bar way too high for themselves.
Absolutely.
Setting the expectations way too high for themselves, putting heaps and heaps of pressure on themselves. And like this isn't even about, someone who's pregnant. This is about anyone who's competing in powerlifting. Like they'll expect the absolute world of themselves and then one thing might go wrong during their prep and then it's all over and it's just like complete mayhem. And I think that's actually really good advice for any powerlifter is to just kind of focus on enjoying the training, enjoy the process, give the effort, tick the boxes, do all the things that you're supposed to do, and the result will be the result. Like you can say what you want about like, I'm going to do this, but you actually can't influence that.
No. There's
the only thing that you can influence is the stuff that you do. So like if you put in 100% effort and you say, I'm going to squat 300 kilos and you put in 100% effort and that 100% effort yields 280 kilos, like that's all that you could have done.
Yes.
You can't get upset at yourself for not reaching this ridiculous goal that you set yourself because you just expected that you'd be able to do it. We need to be more sort of realistic and objective about the way that we set ourselves up for stuff like that.
For sure. I think it's hard unless you have gone through, whether it's an injury or whether it's a pregnancy or like a long stint away from it. Those are the sorts of things that help you align your expectations. If you're just chugging away, doing your training, competing fairly regularly, it's hard. It's hard not to get in that mindset. So sometimes I think of this as like a real blessing because
it's a bit of a reset.
Yeah, definitely a reset.
I think a lot of people also like will underestimate where they can end up. And then because of that, they don't do as much as they could. So like, let's say like that goal of 300, right? And someone gives 100% and they put in every input and everything's going great. Like you might score 320. You don't know. It's like setting that number is just, I don't know.
It's too hard. I think you just got to go in and think whatever I get on the day is going to be mad, and then I just got to take it from there.
So are you planning on making this like competing like part of your identity going forward, or is this more of like a one-off? I just want to do another comp after having kids, and then we'll see.
No, I definitely want it to be a more regular thing. I think doing like one comp a year is probably enough, given that. I mean, you want to do a comp as well. We have 2 kids. It's quite a lot, If you want to put everything into it, you have to make sure that you've got the time to train X amount of times a week, and we have activities that our kids are going to be doing, and there's lots of things to consider. So I think one comp a year, but I would definitely like to do that ongoing.
It's funny you say put everything into it. It's just that everything looks so different.
Oh my God, so
like
different.
The everything from, 2018, 2017, 2019, like when I actually had nothing else going on. And now everything's like, I actually do my training and I eat enough protein and I go to bed on time. And like, that's literally the extent of everything.
Training as a parent, particularly of children under 5, like I've just kind of accepted that the next like 3 to 5 years for us it's going to be challenging. Things are going to be hard. Like children suck everything from you. They take everything you got. So I think that for us, it's going to be, making sure we work together as a team to make sure that we get to train, because I know it's such a big priority for you. It's such a big priority for me. Making sure that happens for both of us, because we do enjoy it and it does give us a break as well. It's also a good healthy habit that we have, and being a role model to Summer and our future boy is really important.
Should we tell everyone the name, because
no,
this episode is going to come out after he's born, so only Chris will know.
All right, if you want to spring it on.
I will tell you after, Chris.
So
I know I just had a bit of a rant about how setting really high goals is often a waste of time, but I mean more in a very short term, sort of like at this comp, I'm going to do X. What I actually like to do is in my lifetime, I would like to tick off X. Do you have any numbers in mind that you want to tick off, in the next decade?
Yeah, I want to squat 150. I think that's pretty achievable.
Yeah, I think that's definitely
in the next
achievable.
10 years, definitely. Bench 90, which isn't that far off what I have benched before, but I'm going
to tell a story after you finished.
Bench progress is very slow, so I'm setting low expectations after making a big error earlier in my life. And I'd like to deadlift like 160, 165. Deadlift is my hardest lift, so my expectations are relatively low there. But
I think all of these expectations are going to change in the next sort of 18 months for you.
We'll see
I think you're going to end up setting the bar a lot higher. This is a really funny story from...
This is so embarrassing.
This is so funny. So Chrissy had done maybe like 4 or 5 competitions at this point, and I think benched 82.5 or 80. I think 82.5. And we were getting dinner after a comp, and we were with JP and Billy and Berkman. And you were saying how, you've got this goal to bench 100 kilos. And Berkman and JP and I were like, it's a lot. Only one person in the 57 class in Australian history has ever benched 100 kilos. We were trying to sort of set the expectations for you that this is actually really, really impressive bench press. And what you were doing at the time was really impressive too. And the reason that you had these expectations was because when I started coaching you 2016, your bench was 62.5. And within 2 years, you'd put 20 kilos on it. So you were thinking I'm pretty red hot. I'm going to continue this really fast level of progress. And you and I actually bet that you would bench 100 kilos in the next 2 years. We bet $1,000, and I'm still waiting for my $1,000. And sorry, just tell everyone what your best bench is.
It's 87.5. I got the trajectory wrong there. So should have listened to the more seasoned powerlifters at that time in my life. But hey, we all make mistakes. Do I think that benching 100 in my life is possible? Maybe.
I do.
I'll probably be competing a little bit heavier as well. So definitely a little bit more achievable at a heavier weight, but we'll see. And I still have no intention of paying out that $1,000.
It's all right. You've paid me back in numerous ways. So I think something that's actually really important when, setting expectations for yourself as you get older is looking at the history of powerlifters, and in particular females who tend to peak really late. JP put a video up recently. I don't know if you saw it, talking about Susie Hartwig-Garrick. And, Liz Craven's another example of this, Kim Walford, Jen Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
Women who peak in their mid-40s and late 40s. Liz Craven is, I think, still to this day getting stronger, and she's in her late 40s. So I think it's important for yourself to not set the bar too low, because I think that the progress that you can make at this stage of your life is actually, there's a lot of room for it.
Definitely. When I saw that video that JP put up of Susie Hartwig-Garrick, I was like, that's mad. That has just that has made me feel so much better about.
Yeah, I think she hit her best all-time deadlift in her late 50s. I think at 57 years old.
That's mad.
And do you know who David Ricks is?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he is a 93 lifter from America. He's still lifting to this day. He just won the M3s at Worlds, so the 60 to 70 category. And he beat everyone in the 40 to 50 category and everyone in the 50 to 60 category. When he was 58 years old, he squatted the open world record in the 93s, which is like one of the most stacked classes. Did 325.5 kilos at 93.
That's crazy.
Drug tested, like walked out, everything at 58 years old.
Yeah, see, and I think what you mentioned as well, you do see it more in women as well. And I think that's probably partly because a lot of them do take a break to have kids. I know Liz has a daughter.
Or a lot of them start later.
Yeah, or they start later.
Like Liz started
Jen
in
Thompson
her 30s.
as well. Like I think she has 3 boys. Imagine your mum benching 140 kilos. That is mad. You'd want to outbench her like as soon as you could, right?
Surely those boys would be in the schoolyard being like, my mum benches more than your dad. Which is so good. Because you know how everyone's like, my dad benches more than your dad. My dad's stronger than your dad. Well, my mum's better than your dad.
That's my goal. That's my goal, for someone to be able to say that to other kids at school.
My
mum's
goal-
stronger than your dad.
My goal now is to just be like the jack dad at the school pickup. So that's kind of my life goal now. I've been training arms so hard lately.
But no, it's very exciting. It's really exciting seeing women like that. And it's definitely more, I feel like it's so much more applicable to my life now that I am at the stage of having kids and coming back to powerlifting after that and seeing their progression in, their late 30s, early 40s, late 40s. It's good. Like, it makes me think, I can just keep going and I'll just keep getting stronger.
Yep. All right, Chrissy, before I let you go, I've just got one more question. What is the worst piece of coaching advice you've ever given?
Do you remember when BCAAs were a thing?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I honestly think that they still are.
They still are. I encouraged my clients to drink BCAAs.
Was this like because of Lane Norton?
Yeah, definitely. And like the trickle down effect from like him to all the other coaches and
Him to Nick Cheadle.
Yeah.
That's definitely Nick Cheadle. You can blame Nick Cheadle for that.
Oh,
because
no,
I'm
I
sure
won't blame
that
Nick.
that was his advice to you.
But
and then that was your advice to your clients.
But when you see someone that you trust giving that advice, that's the advice that you give as well. So it kind of makes sense. And it's like, it's not like they were like harming, It's just that
they
you
were just harming your wallet.
Yeah, they were just a waste of money.
I got another funny one from my first coach, my first powerlifting coach, advice he gave me. He was talking about my squats and he's like, man, you really need to engage your glutes before you squat. And I was like, how do you want me to do that? And he goes, just squeeze them.
Oh no.
And in my head, I was like, I don't think that's going to make any difference. So I didn't even do it, but I remember that advice. I think we can just let Rick and wrap it up there. You know how when you do a podcast with someone and you like don't have chemistry and it's like really awkward and you ask them a question and they just give you the answer and then stare at you? That's what you just did to me, despite the fact that we are married. And I thought that we would have good chemistry, but apparently
I thought
not.
that you were going to be like, well, thanks for coming on today. And
I
was
was
just
I was going to do that. Final job for you is just to tell everyone where they can find you and if anyone wants you for coaching services. Mm-hmm. Also, Yanni yesterday, Yanni's out. She was like, can you tell Chrissy to keep coaching for 5 more years because I want to have babies in 5 years and I want her to coach me through my pregnancy.
Oh, that's nice. You can
shout out
find
to
me
Yanni.
on Instagram at Chrissy Dask and also at The Strength Series.
Are you ever going to be changing your handle to Chrissy Hayes?
Never.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's taken.
That's pretty harmful.